Number 1. Black Hole Sun, Soundgarden.
Summer stench, neath the black, the sky looks dead.
It was haunting, hypnotic, beautiful, and brutal. Black Hole Sun wasn't just a hit. It was a fever dream wrapped in a guitar solo. Chris Cornell's vocals drip with mystery, floating above Kim Thiel's swirling riffs like a sermon from another world. The lyrics? Surreal, poetic. You could argue about their meaning forever. And that's exactly what made it legendary. But it was the video that truly burned into our minds. Plastic smiles, melting faces. A suburban apocalypse set to slow-motion doom. It wasn't just art, it was a warning. Things were not okay beneath the surface of 90s suburbia. Black Hole Sun hit number 1 on the mainstream rock charts and never left the culture. It was Soundgarden's biggest single, and a dark monument to grunge's most experimental edge. It didn't scream for attention, it pulled you in like gravity. And while Cornell was dissolving reality in slow motion, the next band was punching the gas and launching punk rock back into the mainstream like a Molotov cocktail. Number 2. Basket Case, Green Day.
Why not like my dreams? She says it's like a sex that's bringing me down.
Do you have the time to listen to me whine? You better believe we did. Basket Case was the sound of teen angst on a sugar rush. Paranoid, punchy, and damn near perfect. Green Day didn't invent punk, but with this track, they dragged it out of the underground and straight into the bedrooms of a million pissed-off suburban kids. Billy Joe Armstrong's vocals bounce between comedy and crisis, pouring mental breakdowns into 2-minute hooks that feel like therapy you can slam dance to. And the video? Mental Asylum meets pop art chaos. It defined MTV in '94. This song made Dookie go nuclear. It turned mall rats into misfits and misfits into a movement. Green Day became icons overnight without changing who they were. Basket Case wasn't polished. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. And that made it dangerous. And while Billy Joe was spiraling into madness with a smile, the next song dove even deeper into the dark, turning industrial noise into one of the most unforgettable hooks of the decade. Number 3. Closer, 9 Inch Nails. It opened with a beat that felt like a drum machine having a seizure, and then Trent whispered, "I wanna," you know the line. Closer wasn't just provocative, it was radioactive. A full frontal assault on religion, sex, shame, and identity. Wrapped in a track so catchy, it somehow got radio play with the dirtiest line in music history bleeped out. Produced within the hellish soundscape of the downward spiral, Closer is industrial sleaze turned into sonic perfection. Mechanical, filthy, raw, but with the precision of a scalpel. And the video? Banned. Then re-edited. Then iconic. 9 Inch Nails brought danger back to rock. Not loud guitars, but paranoia, sweat, shadow, and sin. Closer made you feel like you were breaking the rules just by listening. And in 1994, that's what rock was meant to do. And while Reznor was burning it all down with a whisper, the next band was climbing the charts with a song that turned a classic Southern riff into a grunge-era power play. Number 4. Interstate Love Song, Stone Temple Pilots. The riff is smooth, the vocals laid back and full of longing. But behind that calm exterior, Interstate Love Song was pure emotional wreckage in disguise. Written during a time when Scott Weiland was battling addiction and lying to the people closest to him, the lyrics are a confession hidden in melody. Lines like, "Leaving on a southern train" feel like freedom, but they're soaked in regret. Dean DeLeo's slide guitar gives it that southern rock flavor, but the heart of the song is grunge through and through. Sad, slick, and full of things left unsaid. When it dropped, Purple was already burning up the charts, but this song cemented STP as more than a Pearl Jam clone. They were melody makers with muscle, and they had their own demons to dance with. It became one of their biggest hits, and decades later it still sounds like a postcard from the edge of emotional collapse. And while STP kept their heartbreak buried under layers of polish, the next track was raw, ragged, and straight from the torn heart of a rock widow turned frontwoman. Number 5, Doll Parts, Whole.
Yeah, they really want you, they really want you, I do too.
Someday you will ache like I ache. Simple, brutal, eternal. Doll Parts was Courtney Love unfiltered, a raw howl from the depths of grief, insecurity, and unrelenting spotlight. Written before Kurt's death, but released after, the song became an unintentional epitaph, not just for Love's marriage, but for a generation's innocence. Stripped down chords, sloppy, defiant delivery, lyrics that feel like diary pages torn in half. Love didn't ask for sympathy. She demanded attention and got it. The video? Bleak, poetic, perfect. It captured the vulnerability and violence baked into Hole's world. By the time Live Through This dropped, Courtney was tabloid fodder, but on this track she was something more, an icon of painful honesty in a world that only wanted polish. It was punk. It was poetry. It was a scream and a whisper in the same breath. And while Hole mourned the cracks in the surface, the next band was busy lighting fire to the whole damn structure. With one word, one riff, and one message. Come out, play, and subscribe to our channel now. Number 6, come out and play The Offspring. You gotta keep them separated. One line, one riff, and suddenly, punk was everywhere again. Come Out and Play was The Offspring's breakout moment. A snarling, sarcastic anthem about gang violence, school shootings, and teen tribalism. But it wasn't preachy. It was snappy, hooky, and pissed off in all the right ways. Dexter Holland's nasal snarl, Noodles' crunchy guitar work, the sarcastic playground chants. It was the sound of America's angsty suburbs blowing off steam with circle pits and sideways hats. Released on Smash, the biggest-selling indie rock album of all time, this track didn't just make The Offspring famous. It opened the floodgates for a full-blown punk revival, and MTV ate it up. The video's black and white desert weirdness made it stick. Suddenly, kids who'd never even heard of Bad Religion were crowd surfing at Warped Tour. Come Out and Play was the call to arms for every bored teenager who just wanted to break something. And while The Offspring were raising fists and flipping birds, the next song took a very different approach, whispering rage through an Irish accent and a gut-wrenching tribute to real-world horror. Number 7, Zombie, The Cranberries. It starts with a lullaby and then erupts like a war cry. Zombie wasn't your typical 90s alt-rock hit. It was loud, it was angry, and it was deadly serious. Written after a bombing killed 2 children in England, Dolores O'Riordan penned the lyrics in response to the endless violence caused by the Troubles in Northern Ireland. The result? a thunderous protest song wrapped in grunge distortion and haunting melody. With that voice, O'Riordan doesn't just sing, she wails. In your head, they are fighting. Isn't just a lyric, it's an accusation. The Cranberries were best known for ethereal, folky pop, but with Zombie, they proved they could roar with the best of them and still keep their soul intact. The video, all golden statues and ruins, became an MTV staple, and the track, a global anthem. One that still plays loud at protests, football matches, and candlelight vigils. And while Zombie mourned a generation lost to violence, the next song was a soft-spoken apology from a frontman who was already halfway out the door and didn't know it yet. Number 8. All Apologies, Nirvana.
What else should I be? All apologies.
What else should I be? All Apologies. Released just months before Kurt Cobain's death, All Apologies now plays like a farewell note. It's not angry, it's not loud, it's numb. Stripped down and slurred, the track floats in and out of coherence like a man trying to explain himself while drowning. The MTV Unplugged version, now one of Nirvana's most iconic performances, stripped it back even further. Just Kurt, a sweater, and a quiet sadness that said more than any scream ever could. Lines like, "In the sun, I feel as one," sound like peace, but they feel like surrender. And that final, all in all, is all we are, still echoes like a prayer you never finished. It wasn't Nirvana's biggest hit, but it was the most human. A window into Cobain's exhaustion and the painful beauty of a man who could never quite make the outside world match the one inside. And while Nirvana whispered from the edge, the next group barreled through the wall. With one of the loudest, most chaotic, and unforgettable songs of '94. Number 9, Sabotage, Beastie Boys.
I'm trying to tell you now with sabotage.
That scream, that fuzz, that chaos. Sabotage wasn't a song, it was a riot wearing a fake mustache. The Beastie Boys had already jumped genres, but with Sabotage, they went full rock-rap hybrid fury. The track is built around MCA's distorted bass line, a pile-driving groove, an ad rock shouting like he just found out his car was towed and his house burned down. The lyrics? A breathless rant against authority, backstabbers, and anyone in your way. It's barely coherent, that's the point, but it's the video, directed by Spike Jonze, that sealed the deal. A 70s cop show parody packed with wigs, car chases, freeze frames, and absolute mayhem. It became one of the most iconic videos of the 90s, and proved that the Beasties could rock as hard as they rapped. Sabotage wasn't meant to chart, it was meant to destroy, and it did. And after all that chaos, the next song brought things back to self-destruction of a different kind, with slurred vocals, broken chords, and a chorus that hit like a cry for help. Number 10, Self-Esteem, The Offspring.
We make plans, go out at night.
It was punk. It was pathetic, it was painfully honest, and it might be the most relatable song of 1994. Self-Esteem took a hard look in the mirror and didn't flinch. Dexter Holland's lyrics weren't about rebellion or anarchy. They were about being stuck in a toxic, humiliating relationship and not having the guts to walk away. The verses are mumbled, defeated. The chorus? A shout-along anthem of insecurity. I may be dumb, but I'm not a dweeb. The song's chugging bass line and loose, lazy rhythm only added to the vibe, like the soundtrack to a hangover you chose. And somehow, it worked. It worked big. Self-Esteem became one of the Offspring's biggest hits. No fake bravado, no tough guy act, just raw, awkward vulnerability dressed in ripped jeans and sarcasm. And while this one groaned through regret, the next song made pain sound cinematic. A track soaked in sadness and sung from the smoky edge of the American West. Number 11. Big Empty. Stone Temple Pilots.
The catch a ride, it leaves today. Her name is what it means.
The strum of that acoustic, the empty space between notes, then a voice like smoke rolling off a desert highway. Big Empty is the sound of isolation. Released on the Crow soundtrack and later Purple, it showed the softer, moodier side of Stone Temple Pilots. No sludgy riff here, just eerie vibes and emotional weight. Scott Weiland sings like he's barely holding on. And maybe he wasn't. The lyrics drift through numb nights, empty conversations, and quiet desperation, all building to a crashing electric chorus that hits like a wave of pent-up emotion. It's a song for driving nowhere, for sitting still in the dark, for that moment when you realize you're alone, even if you're not. Big Empty didn't scream. It sank, and that made it unforgettable. But just when grunge had you staring at the floor, the next track kicked the door back open. With screaming guitars, venomous lyrics, and a front woman who sang like she had nothing left to lose. Number 12. Violet. Whole.
Guy was made of amethyst.
It's delicate, then it's deadly. Violet starts like a lullaby and erupts into a scream. Courtney Love doesn't just sing. She spits, snarls, and stabs every line with messy brilliance. This was Whole at their fiercest, a song about exploitation, rage, and rising from the ashes. You should learn how to say no, she hisses, and suddenly you realize this isn't just personal, it's a war cry. Released in early 1994, Violet was a key piece of Live Through This, the album that dropped just days after Cobain's death. Suddenly, Courtney wasn't just a controversial figure. She was a survivor in the spotlight. And this song? Her flaming sword. The soft, loud dynamics, the shattering guitars, the ache in every syllable. Violet wasn't just angry. It was right to be angry. And that's what made it timeless. And while Courtney tore down the illusion of glamour, the next band leaned hard into geekdom and somehow made sweater vests and awkward smiles the new definition of cool. Number 13. Buddy Holly. Weezer. They looked like IT guys, they played like garage gods, and Buddy Holly became an anthem for every misfit who didn't fit the mold. With its crunchy guitars, hand claps, and tongue-in-cheek lyrics about getting picked on for looking like a nerd, Weezer made the uncool cool again. Rivers Cuomo wasn't trying to be a rock star. He was just being himself. And that's exactly why it worked. Produced by Rick Ocasek, The Cars, the song bounced with polished punk energy. And that now iconic line, "Ooh, I look just like Buddy Holly," instantly tattooed itself into the brains of 90s kids everywhere. Then came the video. Spliced into Happy Days, it was a masterstroke. Fonzie, Arnold's, Dancing Teens, and Weezer right in the middle of it all. MTV ran it nonstop. Buddy Holly wasn't about rebellion. It was about belonging anyway. And it gave a generation of awkward teens their own guitar hero. And while Weezer won with charm, the next band returned to the ring-swinging, resurrecting R.E.M. as a thunderous, riff-heavy force in the alt-rock arena. Number 14. What's the Frequency, Kenneth? R.E.M.
I was screamed and locked out, not up to speed.
It was cryptic. It was loud. It was R.E.M. turning up the distortion and stepping into the mosh pit. By 1994, the band had already conquered the world with Out of Time and Automatic for the People, but with What's the Frequency, Kenneth? Zrinya. They came back snarling. Inspired by a bizarre incident where Dan Rather was attacked by a man muttering the phrase, Michael Stipe used the absurdity as a jumping-off point for a critique of media, paranoia, and generational confusion. The guitars? Fuzzy and aggressive. The vocals? Spit with venom. It was a far cry from Losing My Religion. And fans loved it. This was R.E.M. reminding the world. They weren't just thinkers, they were fighters. And they could still write a riff that hit like a brick through your screen. And while they brought the distortion back, the next track slowed everything down. With a bass line so groovy, it made slackers dance and burnout rock stars feel understood. Number 15. Longview. Green Day.
Bed darts on Summer Street. I locked the door to my hotel and I lost a cake.
Boredom. Masturbation. Couch life. Longview was the sound of doing absolutely nothing and making it sound amazing. Green Day's first major single, it kicked off with Mike Dirnt's unforgettable, slinking bass line, then exploded into a chorus of suburban despair and self-loathing. Billy Joe wasn't trying to be poetic. He was just telling the truth. And it hit dot. The song nailed that mid-90s feeling, too lazy to change, too wired to sleep, too weird to care. A perfect anthem for basement dwellers, late-night losers, and anyone who'd ever stared at the ceiling and wondered what the hell they were doing with their life. It became a generational touchstone, proof that punk could be funny, self-deprecating, and honest. And when Green Day played it live, you could see it in the crowd. They weren't just fans, they were reflections. Longview wrapped up Dookie's chaotic brilliance and gave us one last reminder that sometimes the most relatable songs are the ones about nothing. These were the 1994 rock songs we'll never forget. Grunge epilogues, punk awakenings, industrial nightmares, and the last gasps of beautiful chaos. Which one still hits you in the gut? Which one takes you straight back to the flannel, the angst, and the empty pizza boxes? Drop your favorite in the comments. And if you're riding the nostalgia wave, don't miss our retrospectives on 1991, another iconic year that changed rock forever. Click one on screen now and let the time machine keep spinning.